This feature, The Future of Work, is funded by the News Reporting Scheme.
Welcome to this week's episode of The Future of Work on Clare FM. Ireland's tourism sector is poised for significant growth and could be worth €15 billion or more to the national economy by 2030. The industry aims to employ up to 350,000 people and deliver €3.5 billion in tax receipts every year. The west of Ireland, and arguably Clare in particular, has the potential to attract many more visitors and generate a large proportion of this projected additional income. Tourism-linked entrepreneurship will be central to these ambitious targets. Conor Graham is proprietor of Linnane's Lobster bar in Quay in North Clare. After he and his business partner acquired the premises to continue the popular business, they also bought another neighbouring operation, Flaggy Oysters. In doing so, they were helping to further sustain their business into the future, and what they're doing now is an excellent example of tourism-linked entrepreneurship.
Yeah, well, I think in seafood in general, I think the sustainability of shellfish is a massive thing for us that I think it's a big part of the future. You know, shellfish is very sustainable, especially the likes of your gigas, which are your farmed oysters. For us, it's helped as well in the scale of our growth because we've grown the business, Linnane, substantially over the last few years, and probably without knowing when we bought it, we actually really need it now more than ever because we've increased the amount of oysters on our menu since buying Flaggy Oysters, and a lot more people come down to Linnane's to try the oysters because I think that might have been post-COVID. I think people just got more interested in oysters, so maybe unknowns to ourselves we did need it for scale, but I mean it was always, as Linnane's was growing, we knew we needed more space, so it was an obvious purchase when it did come up.
And tourists or even customers going in for the tour, seeing how it all works, how it all operates, how important was that?
Well, it's great, because I suppose those tours, I always go in and I start the tour, and I start the tour in the same way every time, and I just say this is an oyster, which is a bivalve, and find out who's had them before or not. But I always say, like, I don't really, you go in and you play it by ear, the tour. I know there's points I want to touch on, but you try and make it as interactive as possible, and you learn every time you do a tour. But people are really interested in the business side of it, because I suppose a lot of it can just turn into, you're just standing up talking about oysters and talking about the area for an hour and a half. But I always find the thing that people find the most interesting is actually the business side of it, and the genuine challenges that people find, in the business is what really piques people's interest.
Like other businesses in the Burren, the smokehouse, as an example, they want to tell the story, so they've made a tourism product out of that, no more than you have here. Yeah,
exactly. And it's good, I suppose. It gives people, like, we get emails off people now who have been down and they've done the tour a couple of years before, and they're saying, I'm back in Ireland, I want to do the tour again. And I suppose people just enjoy it. It's a bit of crack as well, like, you do the informative part, and then everyone learns how to shuck an oyster, and everyone's having a few glasses of wine, and then in the end of it you just have a chat with people and find out where people are over from, and you might give them a few recommendations. I always have a list of places to go inside in Galway because that's generally people's next stop. So it's just it's nice, but it's good for people to get a kind of, I suppose, an appreciation for the oysters as well, because I suppose you can just go in and you can order your plate of oysters and you can go again, and it wouldn't mean a whole lot to you, but it's when you have more of an understanding of how the whole thing works and the history of it, I think you appreciate it a bit more. It's like if you go in, you do a tour of a vineyard, and I think oysters are very comparable to wines in a lot of ways, but you have more of an appreciation for that, and maybe even for that particular vineyard, then in future you have a bit more of a grow for it, so
was it inevitable though, Conor, or was it always part of the plan to keep the tours going alongside the business?
The tours were such a massive hit. Like, we used to, when Jerry used to do them, we used to have people come up afterwards and they'd be raving about it, how good it was. So we kept it up, and we didn't try and replicate exactly what Jerry did, because every personality is different. but we just put our own kind of spin on it. But the tours are a great part of it. And I think it's nice because I suppose it's very different to your interactions with people in a restaurant, because if you're in a restaurant, you go down, you take the order, you might have a few minutes of a chat, but you're always quite busy. Where if you're down and you're doing a tour, you get to find out a lot more about people and have a much better chat, you know. So it's kind of it's nice, like it's enjoyable as well as being a part of the business, you know. It's something that's a bit of fun.
You're a year-round operation. I know that it's sort of seasonal, different times of the year you open, maybe a certain number of days a week, but because you're a year-round operation, is it easier for you to keep or get staff when you need them?
Yeah, well, I think that's part of the reason we're a year-round operation. You know, if you were to put a completely business view on it, you'd close at the end of September and you'd open at the start of March. But because, like I've mentioned in the past, that this is a community hub, and because you want to retain your staff, and basically, I think if you're going to hire someone, you have to, you know, really give them work throughout the year. So, from a business point of view, you probably wouldn't be a year round, but like from a I don't know how you get good staff and a head chef in your kitchen team, because we've kept on 4 chefs there all winter, you know, even when the hours are reduced and when everyone gets their certain amount of hours a week. And even for the same for like a lot of our front of house staff would be in college. They come back and they work weekends, and then we have a few full-time front of house staff. So I obviously have no experience in what it would be like if you did close for a part of the year, but I imagine it must be much more difficult to try and hire in a whole new team, and everyone, you know, it's like anything. I mean, you're in a place, especially for a lot of chefs, like you have to be there for a few months before even, you know, you get the feel for it, and then you go on from there. But like a lot of our team have been here with us for, you know, a few years, and yeah, I couldn't imagine trying to hire in a whole new team every year coming into March, because trying to hire one at a time is hard enough, but hiring, you know, kitchen of 7 or 8 people, and I suppose some people come back, and then trying to get the staff in and get them all up to pace, it'd be difficult. I don't know what you do with yourself for the winter either. It'd be another problem.
While securing and retaining staff is relatively easy for Conor because his is a year-round business, it's not the same for everyone, particularly those who open only seasonally. Sheedy's boutique B&B is located in the centre of the internationally known village of Doolin. Frank Sheedy trained as a chef at GMIT and has worked in high-end hotels around the world. His wife Marian managed 4- and 5-star hotels and restaurants across the globe, but both decided to settle back in Ireland. Their dream was always to build and operate their own business in the heart of Doolin. After battling and overcoming some challenges, in early 2019, Marian and Frank opened Sheedy's of Doolin.
It was part of a long-term plan. It's not easy, first of all, to acquire a place in Doolin, and then to get planning was a challenge. But we did, we were eventually successful, and I guess, yeah, this was always the dream. We saw the need for more individual. It's like a hotel, but it's not a hotel. You have the standard of a hotel room, but you have the personality of a B&B, which is very important in Irish hospitality.
You're employing yourselves in the business, but it means, because Frank is a chef, it's one less person you have to employ. Does that help?
Of course it helps, yeah. He's kitchen and I'm front of house, but at the same time it's 24/7, 7 days a week. There's no let up. You can never say you're free to go somewhere, do something. To go somewhere, it takes planning. Now we are fortunate, we have a full-time housekeeper since last year, and that has been the first time we've had a full-time employee since we opened in 2019, and that is a huge, huge help.
What kind of research went into convincing you that this could work, and this type of property, this quality of property could work in Doolin?
Well, I suppose being in the industry all our lives, we've seen different aspects of it. We've worked in different venues. We've travelled quite a bit. So I think travelling teaches you what you can do and what you need to do and what there is a need for. And thank God we have been successful since we started. So Doolin is a great village to have a business in, because you really do have tourism 12 months of the year if you want. The high demand would be for 8 of those months, from March, I guess, till the end of October. And Doolin provides all levels of accommodation. So we're only one level. You can go hostel, you can go regular B&B, you can go hotel, you can go self-catering. It's a budget that fits everybody.
In terms of challenges you've faced, would employing staff or getting staff or having access to staff, was that a big issue?
Staff is always an issue, a huge issue actually, and particularly when you're seasonal. There are a lot of people around here willing to work, but unfortunately, if they come off their welfare benefits to work for 8 months of the year, what are they going to do for the other 12? There should be some kind of a system there where they can say, I'm signing off from today, but I will be signing back on in November. And I think that would open up employment for a lot of people like us that are seasonal operators and struggle to get people to work.
It mightn't be as difficult for a year-round business in another area, and by its very nature and your location, you are a seasonal business. Is it an issue you face every year?
It is, and it's hard to maintain a high standard when you know you have to start with someone new. If you're lucky enough to get someone new, that is a big challenge, and everybody faces it here in the village. Every year it's the same, and lack of accommodation for staff as well is a problem. You might have someone looking for a job, but they've nowhere to stay.
How do you overcome the problem though?
Well, I guess there's a silver lining to every cloud, and the Ukraine war brought a lot of people into the area, and we're fortunate we have a Ukraine girl with us, and she's full-time with us, and we really have looked out with her. She's on her 2nd year now, full-time employed with us. Otherwise, I actually don't know what you do or where you go. You go to an agency, but for small business to pay an agency fee, it's expensive, and then there's no guarantee they're going to stay with you for the season. I think there's a 6-week contract, and once the 6 weeks are up, you start again with the agency. So how you resolve that, I don't know. You're always looking ahead and going by the seat of your pants when it comes to employing people. I do believe that in the area we're in, the whole area of North Clare is huge tourism. It's seasonal. The government should be looking at it. They should be saying there is so much unemployment or social welfare or whatever you want to call it. Work with them. Let them work a full-time job for 8 months and reinstate their benefits for the 4 months that they're not working. I think that would be a huge help.
Because you've met people, Marian, who have said to you and to Frank, look, I can't because I'm going to lose my social
exactly.
welfare.
And the fear of what will they do, how will they pay their rent, how will they pay for anything. And it's totally understandable. We can't guarantee them 12 months of the year. We can guarantee 8 months, 40 hours a week, but after that, no.
Is that very frustrating, and is it tough on the business?
It's, if you don't have someone like, say, our housekeeper, if we didn't have her, it takes the joy out of the job. Because it's drudgery, because you're trying to cover every aspect yourself, and then you start to kind of cut corners maybe, or you just don't want to do it anymore, or you don't have the time or the energy for your customers, which is the main part of the business, is to entertain them, make sure they're happy, be hospitable. But if you run ragged trying to cover jobs that you shouldn't be doing, it's hard to do that.
How many people, aside from yourself and Frank and your housekeeper, then would you need during the busiest part of the year?
That's it. That's all we have. And Bertie, of course, he does the
dog.
All the entertainment. No, just the Frank does all the kitchen side and the shopping and all that, and I do the front of house side of it, and Elena does the housekeeping.
Do you believe that you're very fortunate to have
Fierce
Elena?
Fortunate. My God, we say it every day.
So next year, and hopefully she'll be with you for years to come, but how difficult would it be to find someone who can do the job to your standard if that day came?
Elena had never worked a job before. She came to me. I trained her in, and she is exceptional at what she does now. Exceptional. She takes pride in what she does. So to replace her, I don't think it's possible, to be honest with you. It's very, very, very difficult to get anyone that first of all, is willing to do it, because it's not an easy job. It's a difficult job. It's a hard job. But to do it to the standard that we maintain it at, it's very difficult. I think it's impossible.
Are you concerned for the future, or is there some semblance of confidence that you'll be okay?
Well, we're not afraid to knuckle down and get on with it ourselves if we have to. To be honest with you, I don't want to even think about it, because I live in the moment. We're doing well at the moment. We have Elena. But going forward, it's too much stress to think about. Things are not going to change. You
do believe, though, that the government should step in?
They do.
And make some allowance?
I do. I think they should be stepping in all the tourist areas. And they know that it's season. They know they don't have work in the winter. Let them work some package with them. Even to say to them, you can work 30 hours, anything that you can hire someone. Like, if you have to pay someone in cash, it defeats the purpose of your business. You're not covered by insurance. So that's a whole other kettle of fish.
That was Marian Sheedy, co-owner of Sheedy's Boutique B&B in Doolin. Earlier we heard from Conor Graham, proprietor of Linnane's Lobster Bar and Flaggy Shore Oysters in Quay, also in North Clare. We'll be back next week with another episode of The Future of Work.
This feature, The Future of Work, is funded by the News Reporting Scheme.